Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach Malak Yabushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach Malak Yabushai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their body as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying. They're fasting. They're studying. They're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Aquat out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing the husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to everybody tuning in live on another beautiful day of the Feast of Dedication, right? This is the third day of the Feast of Dedication, a day of Yahweh Bashmi Awashai setting up our forefathers, Mattathias, Judas, Simon, Jonathan, their brethren, and their sons to cleanse the temple and dedicate it in righteousness, man, to destroy the enemy, avenge your nation, protect the lives of the temple, our wives, our children, and to make the wicked shrink in the land, man, by the blood of the sword. And these things have been done that we may learn how we're supposed to cleanse our temple and dedicate our temple in righteousness and keep these high holy days with mirth and gladness, man. Right? So shalom to everybody tuning in live. Cedos, Ernesto McCrae, T. Sellers, Solomon McFadden, Kyoko Bunyamyan, Ephraimite Ak, Nigel Blends, Don Israel, Love Pious, Brother Believe, Princess to a King, Yvette McKellar, Divinely Fashioned, Sis, Dusty Mariah Yisrael, HBK Ent, Teramiah Banya Sha'ala, Gigi Lily Bell, Ainan Shar, Shalom King, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. Daniel 11 Breakdown finally explained volume 4. So we're going to continue the Daniel 11 series where we left off in the book of Daniel chapter 11. I believe we left off at verse 20 or so, right? We left off around verse 20. And it's fitting that the time from verse 20 to around really to about 35, it goes into the time of Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, right? And it's fitting that during the Feast of Dedication, we go into this this volume because it goes into an integral part of why we keep the Feast of Dedication, right? If time permits and allows us to get to it. So let's get right into it, right? Let's continue. And if you haven't watched the earlier volumes, if you missed volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, we encourage you to go back, check the videos out so you can be up to speed about where we're at, because we're going to start almost towards the end of the chapter. We're about 80% done the chapter, right? We started at verse 1. We went through the Alexander, the kings of Persia, the fourth Richard of them all, the king of the north, the king of the south, the Ptolemaic dynasty, the Seleucid dynasty. So we're kind of going into that, right? So now we're in Daniel chapter 11, and we picked up at verse, or we're going to pick up rather, at verse 20, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go back to this. Right, let's pull up Daniel chapter 11 and verse 21. Salakia. Daniel chapter 11 and 21. Right? Salakia. Right? And it reads, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. So this man, this vile person that stood up in a space of Heliodorus, because Heliodorus was the man that the raiser of taxes, Seleucus, set up, right? Seleucus set up a raiser of taxes, and Heliodorus was the next man up. Then Heliodorus was in power, and ultimately Antiochus came into power. And Antiochus, we'll read on, he actually, legend goes, or the history says that he actually put this guy to death, man, Heliodorus. And every man that wasn't on his side, he stood up in power. He is the vile person, Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, man. One of the most wicked men that you'll ever read about in the entire Bible, right? And he has It's he has people with him that are wicked too. Cain, Esau himself, right? Herod. We talk about all of these wicked devils, man. But Antiochus Epiphanes, he takes the cake, for lack of better terms. Right? First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 10. Let's read about it. And there came out of them a wicked root. So now when you get to Daniel 11 to around 21 on down, or 21 to about 35, you want to start going. There's going to be a lot of heavy influence in Maccabees. You're going to have to go to First Maccabees, Second Maccabees, then link it back up with Daniel 11th chapter. So again, every brother should and sister should be in the spirit of Maccabees, right? It shouldn't be a strange thing for us to dive into First and Second Maccabees, right? So again, First Maccabees 1 and 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So this is the son of Antiochus III. Now, when you look up the Seleucid bloodline, the family tree of the Seleucids, Antiochus the Great had a son, Seleucus IV Philopator. All right. And Seleucus IV Philopator had a son named Demetrius Soter. Demetrius Soter is technically supposed to be ruling right now. But you're going to find out that Antiochus Epiphanes actually, through sorcery and flattery and deception, actually usurped the kingdom from Demetrius I Soter. So here's the wicked root that came into power that you read about in the book of Daniel, the 11th chapter. And why is he called a vile person? Because this man was off, man. He was a pedophile. He was into pedestry. He was a child molester, a murderer, a rapist. And this guy, he was bugged out, man. One of the nicknames for Antiochus Epiphanes is Antiochus Epimenes. Right now, Epiphanes, it means God is manifest. And Epimenes, it means madman, right? So let's pull up why he's called the vile person, right? What does it mean to be vile? Extremely unpleasant, foul, bad, disagreeable, horrible, hateful, abominable. We're going to stop at that word. Abominable. So it says a wicked, it's like a wicked or a vile person. Really, it's an abominable person, an abomination, right? An abomination in the eyes of Yahweh Bashmir Shai and in the eyes of all Israel. Now, when you go into this, man, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, right, was a Greek Hellenistic king that ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164 BC. He was the son of Antiochus III the Great, originally named Mithridates. He assumed the name Antiochus after he ascended the throne. Notable events during Antiochus' reign include his near conquest of Ptolemaic Egypt, his persecution of the Jews in Judea and Samaria, and rebellion of the Israelite Maccabees. I'm going to jump down. So let's see why he's called the vile man. Antiochus' often eccentric behavior, right? Eccentric is odd, peculiar. And this guy, he's supposed to be a king, but the things that he would do, he would get drunk and lay in the streets. He would throw money at people. He would break in people's houses. He would usurp authority over people. He would torture people. This guy was mad, man. Like Second Ezra says, they should be like mad men, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. And this guy was into frying men in pans. He fried this one of the brothers in a pan, man. Scalped him alive. He'll take your woman and pop your woman in front of you, man. He used to do all types of madness. So his often eccentric behavior and capricious actions during his interactions with common people, such as appearing in the public bathhouses. So he'll just pop up on you while you're naked, man, and say, well, what's going on in here? You're in the public bathhouse. That's like the spot. You know, you're in the spot, you got your towel on, you know, doing your thing, you're chilling, you're in a hot tub, you're relaxing, you know, you're thinking about something. And then here comes the king. This isn't just a regular guy. Here comes the king, no bodyguard, and he just walks in like he's a normal guy, man, just looking at you, asking you, what's your deal? Right? In the Greek tongue. As is appearing in the public bathhouses and applying for municipal offices. So he was, it's like the king, you want to be the mayor. I want to be the treasurer. I want to be the local congressman of the food bank. So he was bugged out, man. He's the king. Led some of his contemporaries to call him Epimenes, meaning the mad. So he's called the madman, or mad meaning crazy, bugged out. You got mad in today's terminology, which means angry, upset. Then you have the ancient terminology or definition of mad, which means insane. That's what mad really means, insane. All right. So let's see something else about this guy. Now, this is from a fragment of the book Polybius, the Histories, right? This is chapter 26, or book 26, rather, 1:8. It reads, Polybius in his 26th book calls him Epimenes, the madman, instead of Epiphanes, owing to his conduct. For not only did he condescend to converse with common people, but even with the meanest of the foreigners who visited Antioch. So he really didn't act like a king. He was like a town drunk. But then he would act like a king 1 minute, then he would act like a town drunk. Then he'll be dealing with a little boy, and then he wouldn't be dealing with a little boy. And whensoever he heard that any of the younger men were at an entertainment, no matter where, he would come in with a fife and other music, so that most of the guests got up and ran off in astonishment. He found that it was young men out there entertaining people, and he would come up and act like he's part of the band. You know, pick up a flute, a pipe. Now he's the king, man, of one of the greatest empires at the time, the Seleucid Empire. So his mind was bad, right? His mind was bad. He would come in with a fife and other music, so that most of the guests got up and ran off in astonishment. He would often, moreover, doff his royal robe and pick up a toga and make a circuit of the marketplace. So he'll just take his royal throne off, pick up a toga, and start sprinting around. Imagine somebody going full speed, track star, right? So this guy, he wasn't fit to be king. He was not fit. He was not your typical king. He was nothing like his father, Antiochus III, what scholars call Antiochus the Great. All right, let's read one more about this man being a vile man. This is why Daniel 11 calls him the vile man, just based off of his bugged out behavior. Right? And the most I could do that. Look at so-called Biden, if that's the real Biden, or whoever's playing that guy, whatever actor, whatever they got going on, that's like that same spirit, huh? All right, so this is from Titus Livius, The History of Rome, book 41, right? This is section 20. It reads, Antiochus, setting up an ivory chair in the Roman fashion, would administer justice and to judge disputes of the most trifling matters. So he was trifling. Right now, we know what the word trifling really means, but he would dispute the most trifling matters. And so incapable was his mind of sticking to any station in life, as it strayed through all the varieties of existence, that it was not really clear, either to himself or to others, what kind of person he was. So that's what you call MPD, right? Multiple personality disorder. That's essentially what he had. So if he was in today's time and he went to a physician or a doctor, psychiatrist, they would say, look, Antiochus, right? You have multiple personality disorder, or you're bipolar. So no, he didn't know who he was, and they didn't know who he was. He was unpredictable. And the Most High said, fear the Lord and the King, and meddle not with them, right, that are given a change. Proverbs 24 and 21. My son, fear thou the Lord and the King, and meddle not with them that are given to change. Or you can't deal with anybody that's like that, man. That's what the Most High said, for their calamity shall rise suddenly, and who knoweth the ruin of them both. Right? You don't know what's going to happen to somebody like that, and how it's going to happen, man. Right? So let's go back to this guy. Let's read a little bit more of his behavior. So it says, and so incapable was his mind of sticking to any station of life. Yeah, so one day he's a mayor, then he wants to be the king. Then he wants to be a pervert and a peeping Tom. Then he wants to be an Olympian and a track star, right? Then he wants to torture the so-called black men and rob the temple. And then set up abominations on the altar, which we'll go into, as it strayed through all the varieties of existence, that it was not really clear either to himself or to others what kind of person he was. It was his habit not to speak to his friends, to smile at mere acquaintances in the most friendly way, right? And with an inconsistent generosity to make himself and others laughing stocks. So he liked to make himself a laughing stock, throw food on himself, right? To some men of distinction who held themselves in high esteem, he would give childish present as a food or toys, man. So he's giving other kings toy cars, toy blocks. Others who expected nothing, he would make them rich. And he seemed to some not to know what he wanted. Some said that he was playing childish tricks. Some that he was unquestionably insane. That's why he's called the vile man. The vile man, the wicked man. Now, the Most High said that to whom they should, Daniel 8 and 11 and 21, to whom they should not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8. So really, when it says it didn't give him the honor of the kingdom, remember, he wasn't next in line, but he stole the kingdom. Daniel chapter 8 and verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. So that little horn that came out is Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. And he's going to wax great. You'll find out as we read, when you go through the history, his expeditions into Egypt, his leagues that he made with different nations. So he waxed strong because Satan was with him. Right? The spiritual, those demons was with him to prosper in his hand in wickedness. Now, when you dive into this history, they should not get the honor of his kingdom, but he should come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. So he had a league with different people to be on his side because nobody really wanted Antiochus to be in charge, right? They knew that the right of the kingdom was supposed to go to the young king, Demetrius I, Soter, but he was too young, right? He was too young, Salaki, bear with me. But he was too young to know what was actually going on, right? He was too young. So that's why this guy took advantage of that. Well, let's pull up that so-called tree again. Okay, bear with me. So it was supposed to go to Demetrius I, Soter, but Antiochus stole it because Antiochus made a league with Eumenes, Attalus, other Greek rich families, and even the Romans. So he had the Romans on his side. He had other sellouts on his side, Greek sellouts, and he had other mighty kings on his side. And all of those men put him in a position where he, even though he wasn't the rightful heir to the throne, he came in peaceably to take the throne. So let's read about that. Right, let's actually see that. Antiochus Epiphanes, the Bible's most notoriously forgotten villain, and he's not forgotten. He's an actual demon, an actual villain, man. Right, actual demon and an actual villain. So let's read about this man. Salaki, let's go to his rise to power. So here's Antiochus' rise to power. Antiochus, born 215 BC, was a son of the Seleucid king Antiochus III the Great. And really, when you're a king, that the kingdom will be passed down to your oldest son. All right? It will go to your oldest son. Now, some sons will fight, and they will fight over power. When you read the book of Chronicles, Rehoboam did something that was wise, right? Rehoboam, he sent all of his sons into different parts of Judea, right? Let's go to 2 Chronicles 11. Because Rehoboam knew that when David was in power, all of his sons fought. Adonijah, you understand? Absalom, they all tried to overthrow David. And many sons tried to fight over the kingdom. Rehoboam knew the account of what Athaliah did, and she killed all the king's seed because they all dwelt in the same place. Right? All of these men knew that, hey, Rehoboam knew if you kept all of the kings in one area, they're going to fight and try to kill each other. So Rehoboam did something, right? Let's jump down and see what he did. 2 Chronicles chapter 11 and 22. And Rehoboam, which is the son of Solomon, made Abijah, the son of Maacah, the chief, to be ruler among his brethren, for he thought to make him king. So it wasn't questioned, okay, who's going to be next? And he dealt wisely and dispersed of all his children throughout all the countries of Judah and Benjamin unto every fenced city, and he gave them victual in abundance, and he desired many wives. So what is the wisdom behind that? Because if you put all your children in one area and one is king, naturally you're going to have a strife for power, and these men are going to fight one another. But if you put one over here, one over here, one over here, you mitigate the chance of an overthrow within your kingdom, right? So Antiochus and a lot of these Edomite kings, they were fighting over power when their father died. Same thing happened with Alexander. He didn't name a king that was going to be after him. That's why it led to what we're at now. The Diadochi, all of these kings fighting over power. You have to establish who's next. Even Esau do that now. He learns, okay, we got the vice president. So in case this guy dies or gets assassinated or whatever, hey, this person could take charge. The Most High does that, man. He had Moses. Okay, if Moses not there, okay, you have Joshua. Okay, Peter, then John. There's always has to be somebody well established publicly in the eyes of the people that they may know who they may go to when the leadership or the leader is not there. Okay. Now, Antiochus knew that Demetrius' first soldier was supposed to be in power, but he fought against his nephew and took the kingdom by establishing a league with wicked men. So let's go back to that. Right? As a potential successor to the throne, he became a political hostage of the Roman Republic under the terms of the Treaty of Apamea. We read about that, concluded in 188 BC. After his older brother, Seleucus IV Philopator, succeeded their father to the throne in 187 BC, Antiochus was exchanged for his nephew, Demetrius I Soter, the son and heir of Seleucus. After this, Antiochus lived in Athens and was there when his brother was assassinated at 175. As story goes that he played a role in his brother's assassination. Now here's the point. Seleucus died in 175 BC. Ancient sources say he was assassinated by the government minister Heliodorus. Heliodorus proclaimed himself regent afterward, essentially giving himself control of the government. This arrangement did not last long. With the help of King Eumenes II of Pergamum, And he had a brother named Attalus that helped him too. Antiochus IV traveled from Athens through Asia Minor and reached Syria in November of 175 BC. Seleucus' legitimate heir, Demetrius I Soter, was still a hostage at Rome. So Antiochus seized the throne for himself. So he ended up coming into power, man. Right? And then he ended up murdering the co-regent, man. Right? He ended up killing a child that will come into power too. So he usurped authority from Demetrius I Soter. And then he slew another baby that was supposed to be in power too. So this guy was out of control. That's how he came into power. Right? Let's see what else happened with this man. It reads, after his ascension, Antiochus took care to maintain good relations with the Roman Republic, sending an embassy to Rome in 173 BC, with a part of the unpaid indemnity still owed from 188 Treaty of Apamia. So he had a league with the Romans too, being on the Romans' good side, working a league with King Eumenes, pulling all of these strings, man, killing the next heir in line. While there, the embassy secured a renewed treaty of friendship and alliance with Rome, greatly helped by the fact Antiochus had come to power with the help of Eumenes II, Rome's principal ally in the region. So that's what Daniel chapter 11 is talking about, right? They would not give him the honor of the kingdom, meaning he wasn't the rightful heir of the throne, but he will obtain the kingdom by flattery. So he flattered the hearts of the people, beguiled their souls, man. Let's go to Romans chapter 16, right? Romans chapter 16 and 17. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause offenses. Actually, we'll read just 18. For they that are such serve not our Lord Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. And that's what Antiochus did. He had good words with the Romans, good words with King Eumenes, good words with the Greeks, good words with the Syrians. And that was an amalgamation that led to his power, right? Let's get another one. Now, this is, right, let's get this as well. Now, one more thing about Antiochus coming into power. Antiochus IV Epiphanes, the brother of the late king, had been in exile in Athens. With the help of the monarch of the kingdom of Pergamon, Eumenes II, he returned to Syria, where he was quickly able to convince Greek aristocracy to support his claim over Heliodorus. Right, so we had the Greek rich families, the aristocracy, King Eumenes II, and the Romans. Heliodorus then vanishes from history. Presumably, he lost his position in government and was either executed or driven into exile. And we're led to believe he was executed. We're led to believe Antiochus killed him, the young child, his brother, and stole the kingdom. So that's Daniel chapter 11. He will come in peaceably, but obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Verse 22. And with the arms, Daniel 11 and 22. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overthrown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And we covered that too, man. Right? The arms of the flood is his army. Armies are likened to flood. So he had men with him, and he had the army of King Eumenes II, and they overflowed and threw down anybody that stood up against him. That's what this arms of a flood represents. The Most High said that the enemy will come in like a flood. Right? Let's go to Isaiah 59. Right? Isaiah 59. Right? Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 19. It reads, so shall they fear the name of Yahweh from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come in like a flood. The Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. See that? That's why there's something called the tide of war. When you have a war between two armies, two belligerents, two opposing parties, and one army has the upper hand, and then another army, all of a sudden, they galvanize together, right, under the flag or the standard, and they encourage themselves, and they take over that army that had the upper hand. What do they call it when one army that was losing gets the upper hand and they start winning? They call it the tide of war. The tide of war has changed. A tide is a flood. And that's ancient terminology. Right? So let's pull this up. The tides of war. Right? That's an actual, let's see if we can get this, an actual saying. Tide of war, meaning that turning the tide is a somewhat vague term that generally refers to the point in a war in which the defenders become the attackers, right? And which the defenders become the attackers. So here's another one. What does turn tide of war mean? Similarly, to turn the tide means to, quote unquote, reverse a situation. As in the arrival of reinforcements turned the tide in the battle. This idiom transfers the ebb and flow of the ocean's tide to human affairs, because the tide goes back and forth. You have a high tide, you have a low tide. So the war is between the ocean and the land, right? You read about that in Second Esdras. The waters went to make themselves more country, like a tide, but the Most High shut them down. Then the tide went down, as if the land prevailed in battle. Then sometimes the tide of war changes. The high tide comes in and the waters prevail, right? So there's a lot of hip talk in the scriptures. Let's go to Second Esdras. Get one more in that, right? We kind of talked about it, but let's read it, right? Let's actually read it. This is Salaki, bear with me. This is Second Esdras, chapter 4 and verse 15. We'll start at 14. I'll start at 13. He answered me and said, I went into the forest, into a plain, and the trees took counsel, and said, come, let us go and make war against the sea, that it may depart away before us, that we may make more woods. The floods of the sea also in like manner took counsel, and said, come, let us go up and subdue the woods of the plain, that there also we may make another country. The thought of the wood was in vain, for the fire came and consumed it. The thought of the floods of the sea came likewise to naught, for the sand stood up and stopped them. So the floods moving in is like an army. The sand standing up and stopping them is the Most High shutting their plans down. And he turned the tide of war. So as they were marching up those waves, the Lord rebuked it and sent them back into the ocean. So that's why Daniel 11 and all throughout the Bible likens armies into a flood. You know? So, and with the arms of a flood, and a flood comes in fast, shall they be overthrown from before him? Who was overthrown? The young king Antiochus, Seleucus, Heliodorus. All of those men were overthrown by Antiochus, who was backed up by Eumenes, Attalus, the Roman Republic, the Greek aristocracy. They were all broken. It reads, yea, also the prince of the covenant. See, that's going into that young son, but also on another level that goes into when Antiochus came into power, he took down the priesthood, right? Onias the third, and he actually got him killed, right? And Jason actually, when you read Second Maccabees, Jason actually came up, right? And what Antiochus did is essentially he would bid for the priesthood. The priesthood did not go to the sons of Aaron. It went to the highest priest who had the most money. So if you had the most money, you could be priest, high priest, right? And that's not how it was set up the days of old, right? So this is kind of twofold. It goes on one level, it goes into how he killed the next in heir, the young infant son, but also at another level, it goes into Onias the third, how he slew him. Right? Let's go to the book of Second Maccabees. Right? Let's go to Second Maccabees chapter 4. Right? Second Maccabees chapter 4. And I'll read 1 and I'll jump down. Right? Actually, we'll read verse 1 and we'll jump down. So Onias was a high priest of the time, right? Of the Oniad family. All right. This Simon now, of whom we spake before, having been a betrayer or betrayer of the money and of his country, slandered Onias as if he had terrified Heliodorus and been the workers of this evil. So when Heliodorus, who went to rob the temple, went back, Simon said Onias is the one that sent that apparition against him. And we went into that apparition in the previous account. Thus was he bold to call him a traitor, that had deserved well of the city and tended his own nation and was so zealous of the law. So he called Onias a traitor. All right, so let's jump down and see what happened. All right, let's actually jump down. Let's see, Salakia. Verse 7, 2 Maccabees 4 and 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest. So Antiochus said, hey, look, who want to be high priest? Who got the most money? You know, wicked Jake, man, always want to be the, what they call HNIC. Always want to be the head so-called Negro in charge, man. Not respecting the lineage of priests that came out of Aaron. No, I want to be the priest, man. So they was fighting to see who could be the high priest. Right? And Jason did that, the brother of Onias. How your own brother go behind your back to the so-called white man to take your position? So Jake, man, these curses, man. Promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver and of other revenue 80 talents. He said, if you give me the high priesthood, I'll give you all this money. And I'll tell you what else I'll do for you, Mr. White Man. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place of exercise, and for the training up of youth and the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. So this is one of the top coons in the scriptures, man. He said, hey, look, I'm going to betray my own brother, my fellow Jew, my fellow Levite, that I could buy the priesthood, and I'm going to give you money for the priesthood. But once I give you money, Slakia, once I give you money for the priesthood, guess what else I'm going to do? I'll give you more. But I'll only give you more if you let me teach my fellow brothers to work out naked. All these young kids out here we want them to walk around naked. I'll give you money if you let me strip them of their clothes so they can work out naked. And I'll give you more money if you let me change their nationality. So yeah, we're not going to call these guys Israelites no more, or Jews. We're going to call them Antiochians, because you're Antiochus. And I love you, Antiochus. Therefore, I want all of my sons and my brethren to be called Antiochians after you, Mr. White Man. Right? So this guy, he was sick. He was sick. Jason was sick in the mind. Right? He was ill. Right? He said, hey, look, we want to take all of our people and call them Antiochians, man. When the king, 2 Maccabees 4 and 10, when the king had granted and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greek's fashions. So he brought his own people, to the Greekest fashions, right? So this guy was wicked, man. And he did this to Onias. Onias was Onias the third, right? Onias the third, son of Simon II, was an Israelite high priest during the Second Temple period. He is described in scriptures as a pious man who opposed the Hellenization of Judea. He was succeeded by his brother Jason in 175 BC, right? And 175 BC. I'm going to jump down. Salakia. When Antiochus Epiphanes IV became king in 175 BC, Onias was obliged to yield to his own brother Jason, a Hellenizer. Not like having a sellout brother, man. You got a righteous brother, you got a sellout. According to Josephus, Jason became high priest after the death of Onias, the latter son being then a minor. All right, so this guy, and when you read Second Maccabees, Onias was actually slain. Right? Let's jump down. Second Maccabees 4 and 34. So after Jason bought the priesthood, Menelaus took the priesthood. And what did Menelaus do? Wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Onias into his hands. So he said, I need Onias. I got to kill this guy. Give me one-on-one with this guy, Onias. He's too righteous. I want to kill him. Who being persuaded thereunto, and coming to Onias in deceit, gave him his right hand with oaths. And though he were suspected by him, yet persuaded he him to come forth of the sanctuary, whom forthwith he shut up without regard of justice. So he killed him, man. He came to him and, look, I promise, man. Believe me, man. You know how Jake is on my mama. I put that on my kids. Put that on my father. Put that on my unborn son. Jake, you see all types of wickedness, man. Onias, please, look, I'm here for you, man. He probably put it on the Most High and the temple. So Onias is like, okay, I mean, I don't really know, but all right. Then he shut him up and he slew him. Right? And this was the plan of Antiochus. Verse 35. For the which cause not only the Jews, but many also of other nations took great indignation and were much grieved for the unjust murder of the man. So this man was so righteous that even the other nations got mad. You know how righteous you got to be for the Moabites to sincerely be mad, man? The Ishmaelites, the Hamites, the Japhites, the Assyrians, the Syrians. That's how righteous you got to be, man. You got to be on a different level for the other nations to get mad, man. That never happens. But this man, Onias, was on a different level. All right? So in Daniel 11, it's really going into what he did to the Seleucid Empire, but also you got to take into account when he came into power, part of the people that was overthrown was Onias, and the priesthood began to be corrupted. Right? That's what Daniel 11 and 22 is saying. All right? Verse 23. And after the league, Daniel 11 and 23, and after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with the small people. So really it's going into how Antiochus Epiphanes IV made a league with the Ptolemaic Empire. Now, the king of the Ptolemies at this time is who? Ptolemy the Sixth. Right? Ptolemy the Sixth, the son of Ptolemy the Fifth. He is the one in power. Now, looking at this genealogy or family tree, you see three people, right? You see Ptolemy the Sixth, Cleopatra the Second, and Ptolemy the Eighth. And they're all related. They're all siblings by blood. Cleopatra the Second is the sister to Ptolemy the Eighth and Ptolemy the Sixth. Right? Ptolemy the Sixth and Ptolemy the Eighth are actual brothers. All right. Now, really, the heir went to Ptolemy the Sixth, and he was dealt deceitfully by Antiochus. Because when you go into the history, the wars that they had between the king of the south and the king of the north were backed off of many treaties, many marriages, right? Many leagues they made. And it was a promise that Antiochus would give cold Syria and the Levant, give that region back to the Ptolemies. And Ptolemy asked for that, man. He said, hold on. Doesn't that land really belong to us? It went through the records, man. And Antiochus said, yeah, it kind of belonged to you, but so what? That's part of the history. Let me see if I got that. Let's get Ptolemy the Sixth. Right? Ptolemy the Sixth, Philometer. Right? Philometer, Ptolemy the Sixth, man. All right. Ptolemy the Sixth, Philometer, was a Greek king of Ptolemaic Egypt who reigned from 180 to 164 and from 163 to 145 BC. He is often considered the last ruler of ancient Egypt when that state was still a major power, right? When it was still a major power. And we're gonna go more into this man. This man plays a major role in Daniel the 11th chapter, right? You cannot break down Daniel 11, 21 on down without knowing about Ptolemy the Sixth. All right. Ptolemy the Sixth. So let's go back to Daniel chapter 11. Right? Daniel 11 and 23. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with the small people. So Antiochus, he came up. Right? Like I said, he had people on his side. He was backed up by the Romans at this time. He was backed up by the king of Pergamum. He was backed up by Greek rich families. He had the men that stayed with him, that was loyal with him, man. His faithful soldiers. And they took everybody else out of power. Right? Verse 24. He shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. Yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. So this is speaking about how he invaded Egypt. All right? How he invaded Egypt. That's what this means. He shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province. The province is the Ptolemaic Empire. Let's pull that back up. That's the province. Or Ptolemaic Kingdom. Let's pull that up. This is the province that he entered into. All right, let's pull his map back up so we can kind of see what Antiochus was getting into. See that? Now, you had chief cities in his province, right? This is a map. You're looking at the map key or the map legend, right? And everything in the gold is the Ptolemaic Empire, ruled right now at this time by Ptolemy the Sixth. You have the Seleucid Kingdom, ruled by who? Ruled by Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth. So what they're saying is Antiochus continued that war between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, and he invaded and went into Egypt, and he went upon the fattest places of the province. So you look at this map, they have chief cities: Pelusium, Alexandria, Memphis, Thebes, Hermopolis, right? These are the top cities of Egypt. Now, he actually took down these major cities, or some of them, man. He took down some of these cities, right? That's what Daniel chapter 11 is saying. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province, because he came in with deceit. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. So what did he do that his fathers haven't done, or his fathers' fathers? Well, he did something that Antiochus III the great war general, who so lauded and praised, couldn't do. Who had war elephants and fought with the Romans. He did something that even Antiochus the third couldn't do. He did something that Antiochus the second couldn't do. He did something that Seleucus the first Nicator couldn't do. I mean, look at the family tree of Seleucids, right? You had Antiochus the Great, Seleucus the third, Carianos, Seleucus the second, Antiochus the second. He did something that none of these men, almost 6 generations, could never do, right? And what is that? He went into Egypt successfully. See, his fathers just fought over cold Syria. That's what they called the Syrian Wars. And they would exchange the power in that land. Sometimes the Ptolemies would have it. Sometimes the Seleucids would have it. Then the Seleucids might hold on to it for a long time. Then the Ptolemies might get it back. It got to the point where Antiochus was no longer fighting. Let's pull the map back up. He was no longer fighting over this area in the green. He already had it. Remember, Antiochus III took it over. We read that in Daniel 11, that his father went into the glorious land. Resettled the Jews, treated them peaceably. But Antiochus, he said, hey, look, I already have that. I already have that green. Right? I already have cold Syria. I have that Levant region. Now I'm going into Egypt. His fathers never did that. There's no account of Antiochus III having major success like his son, man. Or Antiochus II Theos, or even Seleucus Nicator, man. Those are your top Edomites that came out of the Seleucids. He's the only one to go and take down these cities. And these are the fattest places of the province. Like the fattest places are the wealthy places, right? Let's go to Genesis 27, right? Because what did the Most High tell Esau? Right? Genesis chapter 27 and verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept, right? And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. So Esau has the fatness of the earth, man. Jake, while you're in the ghettos, projects, on crack, dope, in the slums, in the hood, strung out, bugged out, Esau has islands that he owns, jet black sand, continents, oil, rich jungles, tropics. He has it all, man. Resorts, you know, chains of islands, man. Private jets that could take them to one island to another island like that, man. And you're waiting on the bus. You missed the bus. Esau's not waiting on the bus, man. Unless you're one of these low-level Edomites. They have the fatness of the earth. So your fatness is really your top lands, your richest provinces. So when Antiochus went into the fattest places, he went into the wealthiest places. All right? So let's dive into that history. Let's go to 1 Maccabees, right? Chapter 1. 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 16. All right? 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and 16. Salakia. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt that he might have dominion of 2 realms. 2 realms are 2 different kingdoms. All right. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. What Ptolemy is that? Ptolemy the Sixth. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. See that? So this Ptolemy wasn't like Ptolemy the third, or a lot of these other Ptolemies. Ptolemy the first. This Ptolemy, he was a punk, man. He was afraid and he fled and got a lot of his guys killed, man. And a lot of his men didn't respect him. His generals, his counselors, they didn't respect this guy. He wasn't like his fathers either, man. He didn't have that same fortitude and military mind like Ptolemy III Euergetes, who went up into Mesopotamia, like Ptolemy I Soter, right? Who established that empire. This Ptolemy was not like those. This Ptolemy was a pure sodomite, into incest. Believe he was raised by two eunuchs, man. He was raised by two pedophiles. So you already know he wasn't on any level. Now he reigned a long time, don't get me wrong, but he had periods in his rulership where he would be there. Then he got sent to exile in Rome and he had to hide in the attic. Then they brought him back, but he was scared. So this guy, he had a lot going on too, man. So Antiochus IV and Ptolemy, man, these are, this is a time period of the Diadochi or Diadochi where these rulers are completely incompetent to rule a kingdom like their fathers. They're just incompetent. They no matter what they can't get the job done. Antiochus, he can't get the job done because he's a madman. Ptolemy can't get the job done because he's a sodomite. We're all sodomites, but he's like a full-blown freak, man. And his mind was bad. Right? Now, if you say, well, look, I don't believe that, I'm gonna just check out the History Channel. All right, watch the History Channel, man. Esau, they're not going to tell the pure truth, man. They're going to make all these Edomites seem like they're gods. They're not going to talk about the madness that they were into, man, and their struggles and weak points, and their heavy sins. So let's read this, right? Slakia. First Maccabees 1:18. And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities and the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. So that's what this links directly up with Daniel chapter 11. Daniel 11:24 links up, Slakia, with First Maccabees 1, verses 16 through 19. Like I said, when you dive into this part of Daniel 11, you're going to be in and out of Maccabees a lot, because Maccabees is going to give you that detailed history, right? And then Daniel 11 is going to just summarize it and put it somewhat in a dark saying. But you have to go through that history and go through the scriptures and link it up, right? So like, and his fathers didn't go all the way into Egypt like that. Now let's read about Antiochus, right? And his military conquests that he did in Egypt. Let's see if we can find that. Slakia. All right, let's jump down. Let's see, bear with me. All right, let's jump down right here. It reads, let's see. I'll start here. I read that already. Okay, the guardians of Ptolemy the sixth Philometer demanded the return of cold Syria in 170 BC. Right? That's what we went into in Daniel 11, where they said after the league made with him, he should work deceitfully, right? Because it was part of their contract to give up that land, declaring war on the Seleucids on the assumption that the kingdom was divided after Antiochus' murder of his nephew. However, Antiochus had warning of the attack and prepared more thoroughly. So the Ptolemies declared war. Antiochus got his army ready. And let's see what happened. He, meaning Antiochus, had already built his forces and moved them into position. As soon as the Egyptian forces left Pelusium, they were attacked and defeated by Antiochus IV. and his Seleucid army. The Seleucids then seized Pelusium, giving them supplies and access to all Egypt. So Pelusium was a fat place, man. He took down Pelusium, the fat place. So you can read about Pelusium in Daniel 11 and the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter. So it was a major city in Egypt. All right. And his fathers really didn't go deep into Egypt like that. But the Most High gave Antiochus that success because he was fueling them with them spirits. And it was his time. Everybody has a time. Pharaoh had a time. These Romans have a time now, these modern day Romans. Solomon had a time. David had a time. Everybody has a time to rule, man. Right? The Lord said they're exalted like all others. So let's go back to this man and his wars. Right? And the wars that he had. The Seleucids then seized Pelusium, giving them supplies and access to all Egypt. He advanced into Egypt proper, conquering all but Alexandria and capturing King Ptolemy. This was partially achieved because Rome, which was Ptolemy's ally, was embroiled in the Third Macedonian War and was not willing to become involved elsewhere. Right? So Ptolemy actually took the king captive, man. You know, he took Pelusium. I believe he took Memphis as well. He couldn't get Alexandria, but he took Memphis. And he kind of set up shop in Memphis. And he had the king sitting at his table with him, man. And that was actually his nephew. All right. To avoid alarming Rome, Antiochus allowed Ptolemy VI to continue ruling as a puppet king from Memphis. See that? So what is a puppet king? A puppet king is like Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama. All of these United States presidents, and really damn near every world leader, they're puppet kings. They don't call the shots. They don't have a say-so in anything. Right? Let's pull this up, a puppet state. America's in a puppet state. Man. You look at a puppet, you got the puppeteer, like Geppetto, he's pulling the strings, but you can't see him. When you go to a puppet show, the purpose of the puppets is for you not to see who's pulling the puppet strings, man. That guy usually works in darkness. He might wear all black, he might have like a black outfit on, a black mask on. The lights might be dim, and that guy's in the back. So we could pull up a puppet show. And people are professionals at that. All right? America's a puppet show. Actual TV show. Nobody. Right? You see that? Damn Muppets. Sesame Street, man. So you got the hand puppets where they do this and they sitting in the back and right, hello, boys and girls, freaking off, man. And then you got the guys that do the ancient with the wood and the string and they moving stuff, man. Right? See that? Yeah, you got these guys. That's the harder version. These guys, that requires more skill. The other one's easy to do this. I could do that. Put a sock in my hand, and I could do this, man. So anybody could do that hand puppet, but that's the hard puppet stuff. You got to pull the arm like this, and you got to get them to walk, and they dancing in the rain, right? So you got to do all types of madness with that. Nevertheless, this is a puppet, and this guy's Joe Biden right here, and that's Kamala Harris. And that's Pence and all of these different world leaders, man, and presidents and vice presidents. These three guys is Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, the Warburgs, the Gettys. They're pulling the strings. Now, it look like you're not supposed to see these guys. When you go to the puppet show, put your $5 in, or you sit in the back, you get your popcorn, you go to the concession stand. Okay, do you have, airheads? Okay, do you want popcorn? Okay, they might have a burger. Okay, you get your food. Like, okay, where am I sitting at? You look at your ticket. Okay, aisle 5, seat 4, row F. Are you sitting in your seat? They dim the lights down. Now, I haven't been to a puppet show, but I would assume that's how it goes, right? They dim the lights down, and you sit there, and they might play some music or something. Then these puppets come out, man. Now you're not supposed to see the guys, like I said, behind the scenes. That defeats the entire purpose. You're not supposed to know their name, just like you don't know these guys' names, man. We don't really know the in depths of these Rothschilds and Rockefellers. You know how tall they are, how long they've been puppeteering, right? How did they obtain their skills? That's how America is being operated. So it's called a shadow government. Let's pull that up too. Let's pull up a shadow government. Right? It's like a shadow government. See if they got that. Right? A shadow government, also referred to as a cryptocracy. That's another one. So America's a cryptocracy, man. They are a oligarchy and a cryptocracy. So you got a democracy, you got a republic, you got a federalist kingdom, right? You got a monarchy, you got a feudalist society, you got many forms of government. America's a cryptocracy, man. Crypto meaning hidden. Krasios goes back to kratios, which means power. Right? That's what this means. Hidden power. Or power is given to the hidden ones, or the secret ones, the secret government, or invisible government. Right? That's your shadow government. Right? Let's see. So they going in on this, man. Right? So pretty much Antiochus set up a shadow government in Egypt. Right? He set up a shadow government in Egypt. Right? Slack it, bear with me. Okay. All right, the shadow government, also referred to as cryptocracy or cryptocracy, secret government, or invisible government, is a family of theories based on the notion that real and actual political power resides not only with publicly elected representatives, but with private individuals who are exercising power behind the scenes, beyond the scrutiny of democratic institutions. Let's go to Psalm chapter 64. So that's what Antiochus was doing. It's nothing new, man. A lot of people think this illuministic government and all. No, that was being done in the time of the Greeks. Right? Psalm chapter 64 and verse 1. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. So the secret counsel are what? Your so-called shadow government, your cryptocracy. That's the true background and fundamentals and foundation of America. But the public puppet is democracy. The puppet is democracy, or a democratic republic institution, and a cryptocracy and an oligarchy is the shadow government. All right. So really what it's saying, when you go back to this in this history, let's pull this back up, about him being a puppet king. Let's find that. Right, let's go back to him setting up puppet king. Right, so like I want to go back to that. All right, bear with me. So like I had a lot of tabs pulled up. We'll pull up puppet king again. All right, puppet king, a puppet state, is a state that is de jure independent, but de facto completely dependent upon an outside power and subject to his orders. Yeah, like the Federal Reserve. Right? The Federal Reserve is not part of an American branch of government, but they influence the power in America. The leaders that own the Federal Reserve and print the Federal Reserve notes and the banknotes, they control this system. That's why you had one of these Rothschilds. They said, "Give me control of the American money, and I don't care who makes the laws. Greatly paraphrasing. That's a famous quote. He said, if you give me control of their money, I don't care who makes the laws. Right? Because money answereth all things. They know that from the scriptures. So Ptolemy was part of a puppet state. Antiochus Epiphanes IV, he set up a puppet state. Right? He set up that puppet state back during his rulership. All right. So let's read that again. So this is Antiochus Epiphanes, right? To avoid alarming Rome, Antiochus allowed Ptolemy VI to continue ruling as a puppet king from Memphis. So he invaded Egypt, took the Fattest place, took Memphis, took Pelusium, took other parts. Then he set him up as a puppet king. Because if word got out that he took down Egypt, then the Romans would come, right? Upon Antiochus' withdrawal, the city of Alexandria chose a new king. One of Ptolemy's brothers, also named Ptolemy the Eighth Euergetes. So now the kingdom is divided. The Ptolemy brothers reconciled and agreed to rule Egypt jointly instead of fighting a civil war. So you had Ptolemy the Sixth and you had Ptolemy the Eighth, and they ruled at the same time. They ruled at the same time, right? So let's get some more history on this. Right. So this is from the Britannica, dealing with Antiochus Epiphanes IV, right? Antiochus forestalled an Egyptian expedition into Palestine by invading Egypt. He defeated the Egyptians between Pelusium and Mount Cazion, conquered Pelusium, and in 169 occupied Egypt with the exception of Alexandria, the capital. See that? So this guy came into power, man. Ptolemy VI was Antiochus' nephew. So he was strong, man. He was strong. I'm gonna jump down real quick. The citizens of Alexandria, however, appealed to Ptolemy VIII because they didn't respect Ptolemy VI, the brother of Ptolemy VI, and to his sister Cleopatra II to form a rival government. So you had two governments and one kingdom. Disturbances in Palestine forced Antiochus to return to Syria, but he safeguarded his access to Egypt with a strong garrison and Pelusium. So let's go back to Daniel 11. So Daniel 11 is speaking about, and really verse 25 is speaking about how Antiochus Epiphanes IV went into Egypt and took down Memphis. That's the fattest place. Took down Pelusium. It's another fat place. And doing what his fathers haven't done, or his fathers' fathers, is setting up garrisons and taking over Egypt, all except Alexandria. His fathers never did that. There's no account. You can't prove it, huh? That his fathers went into Egypt with the same military might as their son or grandson, Antiochus Epiphanes IV. And we read that again in where? First Maccabees, chapter 1 and 19. Thus they got strong cities and the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. All right. So that's what this means. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches, because he brought back great riches. Yeah, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time. When you forecast devices, it means you think about future plans. To forecast means to see in the future. A device is an invention or an idea, a plan, a method. So what his devices that he forecasted was, hey, look, if I don't set up a puppet king in Egypt and a stronghold city, they're going to come against me, the Romans, and I don't have the resources or the army to fight against the growing Roman Republic. That's why it says even for a time. All right, because eventually we'll read that he had to leave Egypt because you have something going on in the time of the Maccabees, right? And we'll read about that too. He couldn't stay there. He had to leave. Daniel 11-25, right? And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very mighty army, very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. And this is the same thing, right? Him invading Egypt is these two verses. The king of the south is Ptolemy VI, Philometer. And when you look at the battle, how that battle went, we read that they were going to go and attack them and sneak up on them, but Antiochus had his army ready. So he was able to go through and compass them and take them down and take over Pelusium. That's what verse 25 is saying, right? That's that history of that battle. Now, when you go to 2nd Maccabees, let's go to 2nd Maccabees. See if this is what I want. Let's see. Actually, okay, we'll hold this. All right, we'll hold this. All right, this is Britannica, right? So it's like having a lot of information I want to get into. All right, we'll see how much I can get into with the time that Yahweh Bashim Rashad gives, right? So this is from Britannica, right? Around 173, Ptolemy was married to his sister. So this guy was a creep. Like I said, he was a creep, man. Just marrying his sister. A lot of these Edomites are always doing that. And we may have a strong reason, we may be able to present a strong case that the British royal families are really the Ptolemies coming back on the earth. All right? Because a lot of those British royal families, they had a lot of ancestral marriage in the throne. Right? Queen Elizabeth and King this and King that, and they were all brothers and sisters. And that's the same thing the Ptolemies did. So they could be the Ptolemies back on the earth. So-called Queen Elizabeth, King Charles. They could be Ptolemy the first, Ptolemy the third, And then you got the Seleucids too. Those could be your so-called Americans, man. Right? Or another branch of people. You never know how that thing is going to go, because you're going to have the 10 horns fight against the beast anyway, man. Like the Seleucids fought against the Ptolemies. And Esau is always into that, man. So Ptolemy was married to his sister, Cleopatra II. Under his advisor's guidance, preparations were made to invade cold Syria. Right? That's what we read in Daniel 11. He shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. Because you got to remember, Ptolemy VI was a young man. You're right? He was a young man, a young king. So really, even though he was calling the shots, he had top generals that really led, military men, right? Mighty war generals that kind of really made the final decisions on how things were going to go, right? And we'll see what impact they had during these wars, all right? So let's go back to that. We'll see what impact they had during these wars. Ptolemy was married to his sister Cleopatra II. Under his advisor's guidance, preparations were made to invade cold Syria. At 170, Ptolemy VIII, Euergetes, his brother, was associated on the throne with Ptolemy VI and Ptolemy and Cleopatra II, because they were all related. And cold Syria was invaded. But the Seleucid ruler, Antiochus IV, decisively defeated the Egyptians and seized Pelusium, the Egyptian frontier city. Antiochus invaded Egypt at 170 and again in 168, but withdrew under pressure from the Ptolemy's ally, Rome. All right, so let's go back to Daniel chapter 11. Daniel 11 and verse 26. Yea, they that feedeth the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. Now, when it says they that feedeth the portion of his meat shall destroy him, it's saying that Ptolemy the Sixth family, his top men that sat at his table, they overthrew him. They gave him bad counsel, bad advice. They said, go to war. It wasn't time for war. They didn't have the resources, the willpower, the time. Ideally, they would have waited on Rome. But remember, Rome was fighting the Third Macedonian War, right? They were fighting wars against the Greeks. So these generals were presumptuous. They said, oh, look, it's time for war. When really, when you retrospectively, right, or looking back, they should have said, well, look, let's wait till the Romans have our back. And we can get reinforcements from the Roman Republic and save time. Then we could take Antiochus down. But they thought they could do it by themselves. So they destroyed this guy, man. You find out that Ptolemy VI had to flee, man. His kingdom got divided, and a lot of people died. And it all happened by the portion of the people that feed up the portion of his meat, right? And those are your war generals. Let's prove that. Let's go to 1 Samuel. Let's get a precept on that. These are the men that sit at the king's table, right? These are the men that sit at the king's table. Well, 1 Samuel 21. It's like it, actually verse 20 and 5 on down. I want to get straight to the point. Right? 1 Samuel chapter 20 and verse 5. I'm going to start at 24. 1 Samuel 20 and 24. So it was an ancient custom for the king and his men to sit at the table. It's called sitting at the king's table. Not everybody can sit at the king's table and eat the portion of the king's meat. Remember, when you read the account in 1 Samuel, the 8th chapter, the 9th chapter, the 10th chapter, you read about Saul sitting with Samuel. And Saul being given a great portion of Samuel's meat. Because Saul was anointed king. And Samuel was the judge at that time. Not everybody can sit with Samuel at his table. And especially be given that portion. Same thing with any king. Any monarchy, they have their top advisors. There's even a legend called King Arthur's table. What type of people sat at King Arthur's table? War counselors, generals, Lancelot, mighty men, you know? And those men could either overthrow you and help you lose your kingdom, or your advisors could help you sustain your kingdom. Every king has advisors. All right, the Persian king had advisors. Ahasuerus had 7 wise men. So-called white men as counselors. Okay? So let's read that. 1 Samuel chapter 20 and 24. So David hid himself in the field. And when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. And the king sat upon his seat, as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. So these are mighty men. You got Saul, you got Abner, right? Abner is one of the top guys, the captain. You got Jonathan, you got David, and all of these men were supposed to help Saul. David helped Saul's spirit. Jonathan was his top captain. David was a captain. Abner was a captain. All right? So they're sitting at his table. Yahushua told the apostles, you're going to sit at my table. Right? In Luke, I believe that's Luke 22. If I'm not mistaken. Right? Luke 22 and verse 29. It's the Lord talking to the apostles. And I appoint unto you a kingdom, as my Father hath appointed unto me. That ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So those are going to be the top men sitting at the table of our Lord Yahushua. All right, let's get another count of them sitting at your table. Psalm chapter 41 and verse 9. Yea, mine own familiar friend, and whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, hath lifted up his heel against me. And this is a beautiful precept that links up with Daniel chapter 11 and 26. So Daniel 11 and 26 says, yea, they that feedeth the portion of his meat shall destroy him. Meaning the people that he was allied with, the men that were supposed to help him as a young king, the men that were supposed to guide him and advise him, and teach him the laws of war, battle formations, times of war, how to amass an army, how to work diplomatic relationships. Those same people that ate up the portion of his meat destroyed him. That's what David said in Psalms 41 and 9. Yea, mine own familiar friend, and whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, hath lifted up his heel against me. Now we know that's really a prophecy going into Judas Iscariot, right? That was fulfilled when Judas sat at the table, dipped the sop in there, and Satan entered into him quickly in John the 13th chapter. And Yahweh told Satan that what thou doest, do quickly. Paraphrasing, right? So Ptolemy was overthrown, man. Let's read about that account. Let's go back to Ptolemy the 6th Philometer. See if they got that. All right, let's see. Bear with me. Right, I have a lot of tabs pulled up through the spirit, man. Right, so I'm going to go into this guy. All right, bear with me. I want to go into his generals. All right, here it is, right? Or these men. So Ptolemy the 6th was still too young to rule on his own. On her deathbed, Cleopatra the First, right, of Syria, appointed Laenas and Laenas, two of her close associates, as regents. Laenas, right, a eunuch who had been Ptolemy the 6th tutor. So that was his boyfriend. It said, now you can say, well, no, it just says eunuch. No, they were lovers too, right? When you go deep into that history, they were lovers. Was the more senior of the two, even minting a coinage in his own name. Laenas was a Syrian slave who had probably come to Egypt as part of Cleopatra the First retinue when she got married. He seems to have been specifically in charge of managing the kingdom's finances. So these were guys that sat at his table. One was over the money, and one was his top advisor and his top tutor. Right? Let's jump down. Let's jump down. All right. We want to jump down and get the point. All right. Let's jump down to right here, right? Okay. This defeat led to the collapse of the Ptolemaic government in Alexandria. Laenas attempted to send Ptolemy the 6th to the Aegean island of Samothrace. So he wanted to banish Ptolemy the 6th. That is supposed to be his top guy, man. One of his men, what they call your day ones, man, who raised him up. And we're going to send you out, man. And a lot of these guys really wanted the throne. They really wanted the power seats for themselves. Right? Now you can say, well, he wanted to protect him. Well, we know how these Edomites are. So they wanted to send him with the treasury. Before this could happen, check this out. Two prominent Ptolemaic generals, Cormanus and Cineas, launched a military coup. Right? Meaning they overthrew the government, launched a military coup, and took control of the Egyptian government. So his own men overthrew him. Laenas, Laenas, Cineas, right? And Communus, right? Now it says Communus, and Cineas rejected the agreement and Ptolemy the 6th authority, declaring Ptolemy the 8th the sole king. So that was division right there. You had some men that was for Ptolemy the 8th, and you had some men that was for Ptolemy the 6th. So the kingdom got divided. These people betrayed him, man. Right? His people betrayed him. And the Lord said, put ye not trust in a friend, man. Right? Let's go to this in the book of Micah. Right? This Micah chapter 7 and verse 5. Trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. So, Ptolemy the 6th put his confidence in a guide. You can't put your confidence in a guide. You got to put your confidence in the Most High. Now, the Most High wasn't with the Ptolemies anyway, but you can't just trust in man as if they're going to protect you. He had 4 men, Cineas, Commonus, Laenas, Euleus, and they all really, really hated him, man. Right? So that's what Daniel chapter 11 is saying. Right? When you go back to Daniel 11, right? Daniel chapter 11 and verse 26. Yeah, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And really, once that battle took place, Ptolemy the 6th had to flee, man. Right? He had to flee. And he fled into where? Alexandria. Let's pull up Ptolemy the 6th again. He fled into Alexandria. So he didn't have a beautiful life, man, like his fathers. Right? He had to flee. He was a puppet king, and he had to flee. All right, so let's jump back to this in Daniel 11. Right? Daniel chapter 11 and verse 26, one more time. Yea, that feedeth the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper. For at the end shall be, Slakia, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Now, when it says, and both of these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, it's speaking about 2 kings. The first king is Antiochus Epiphanes IV, the king of the Seleucid Empire. The second king is Ptolemy the 6th. And their hearts was to do mischief, meaning they both wanted all of Egypt. They both wanted all of Egypt. Do you think Antiochus Epiphanes IV was content with just taking over the fattest place and not the whole place? Would you rather have a few, or would you rather have all? When you go through a military conquest, your plan is not just to take over 2 cities, man. You got to think about the track record and the wars that Antiochus' fathers had, man. He wanted all of Egypt. And it was a failure for him not to capture Alexandria. And Ptolemy, man, how the hell did this happen? Your fathers defended Egypt for damn near centuries, man, and you let Egypt fall. So they both really wanted all of Egypt, but they act like they was, let's work a treaty out. Okay, well, let's sit at the table. Let's work this thing out. Okay, you sign here. Okay, you sign here. Okay, well, let's have this many years of peace. Okay, if you get this land, okay, I'll get this land. So this happened in Memphis, because remember, Ptolemy the 6th was taken captive, essentially, and he was set up as a puppet king in Memphis. And there were deals exchanging between Ptolemy the 6th and Antiochus Epiphanes, but they were both thinking about how to overthrow one another. And that's how Esau is, man. They speak lies at the table. They speak lies at the table. Right? Let's go to Ecclesiasticus. Right? Let me get this quick precept real quick, man. Right? Slaki, let's get this real quick. Right? In Ecclesiasticus for sake of time. That's how the so-called white man is, man. You can't let the so-called white man fool you, man, and just beguile you with strange words, man. Right? There's another precept I want besides that one. Okay, Khan, that's what I want. Right, first let's get the one. Let's get Ecclesiasticus 12, then we'll get the other. Right, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, right, and 14. Actually, we'll start at 16. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. So they'll speak sweetly with their lips, but they're really working mischief at the table. Right? Ptolemy was thinking about how to kill Antiochus. I hate you, Antiochus. Who do you think you are coming and taking over my land? And then Antiochus at the table. How can I conquer Alexandria and all of Egypt? How can I further expand my empire? But they're really thinking about how to throw each other in the pit. You know, it says he will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. He will shake his head and clap his hands and whisper much and change his countenance. You can't deal with nobody like that, man. Right? You can't deal with a demon, a backstabber, right? A treacherous person. Right? This is Ecclesiastes chapter 19 and 26. There is a wicked man that hangeth down his head sadly, but inwardly he is full of deceit. That's that brother. Right? How you doing? Shalom, shalom, King. How you doing? I'm all right, King. I'm all right, man. Smooth. Hey, what's wrong? I mean, you good? You good, King? You know. What's going on? The brother might shed a tear. I mean, some Jakes are real sick, man. They could cry on the spot. They could get real watery-eyed. You know, they'll rent their garment. They'll pluck their beard out. But they're really thinking about how to be with your woman. Man, I lost my job. Can I just stay at your spot just for 2 days? That's all I need. Just 2 days, and I'll be out. I don't have nowhere to go. I don't have anything. Help me. Then he might reach for a hug. Help me, please. King, just help me. All right, King. All right, you got 2 days. 2 days, though. 2 days. All right, I'll be there. I appreciate I love you, King. Right? Then the brother get in and, you know, he dealing with your woman now, man. He's dealing with your woman. Now you come in from work and you know, all hell breaks loose, man. We'll leave it at that, right? Casting down his countenance and making as if he heard not. For he is not known, he will do the mischief before thou be aware. So he's going to get you before you even know it, man. And that's how they was dealing with one another. You got two serpents trying to out-serpent each other. Let's read that again. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. So both of their lies didn't prosper. Antiochus never really took over all of Egypt, right? And Aslakia and Ptolemy never really took over all of Egypt. So they both failed, man. They both came up short. Let's pull this out. Let's go to Josephus. All right. Now this is Josephus, chapter 12. Slakia. Book 12, if I'm not mistaken. Antiquities of the Jews. Book 12, chapter 5. Right? Section 2. Right? So it reads, now Antiochus, upon the agreeable situation of the affairs of his kingdom, resolved to make an expedition against Egypt, both because he had a desire to gain it and because he contemned the son of Ptolemy as now weak and not yet of abilities to manage affairs of such consequence. So he came with great forces to Pelusium and circumvented Ptolemy Philometor by treachery. by treachery. So they were always treacherous one to another. And seized upon Egypt. Let me zoom in a little bit. And seized upon Egypt. So he dealt treacherously, right? He then came to places about Memphis. And when he had taken them, he made haste to Alexandria in hopes of taking it by siege and of subduing Ptolemy, who reigned there. But guess what happened? But he was driven out, or driven not only from Alexandria, but out of all Egypt by declaration of the Romans, who charged him to let that country alone. Right? So the Romans say, hey, look, what the hell are you doing, man? Right? You're going too far. Didn't we tell your father, stop dealing with them? Stop dealing with the Ptolemies, man. All right, so let's go back to this. So the Romans had their back. And this plan is speaking lies that never prospered. Right? Daniel chapter 11 and verse 28. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits and return to his own land. So after he wasn't able to stay in Egypt like he wanted to, because the Romans kicked him out, he was hot, man. He was hot. The hell you mean I can't stay in Egypt? Right? I led this massive conquest, and the Romans telling me I got to leave. And there was another thing that happened too, man. Right? But we'll read about that. So when it says, and shall be against the holy covenant, it's against Israel. All right? On a deeper level. Right? We'll read about that. And he shall do exploits and return to his own land. At the time appointed, he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. So he wanted to do a second invasion. A second invasion into Egypt. Let's go to the book of 2 Maccabees. So he wanted to do a second invasion into Egypt. Let's see what happened during that second invasion. Let's go to 2 Maccabees, chapter 5. All right, 2 Maccabees, chapter 5 and verse 1. About the same time, Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt. Right? And then it happened that through all the city, for the space almost of 40 days, there were seen horsemen running in the air, and cloth of gold, and armed with lances, like a band of soldiers. So right before Antiochus went into Egypt, the Most High sent the chariots all in the sky. All of the angels. For 40 days, they were doing war drills, war games. A lot of these nations do that, man. You'll have America link up with England, China link up with Iran, Russia link up with China, and they'll do naval drills and land exercises, air drills, and sea, and they'll go all out to see if their soldiers are ready for war. Every war general does it, and the Most I had these the angels doing that, man. The angels were running in the air, sparring with one another, fighting, man, shooting lasers. One chair to shoot a laser out, the other one activate the force field, make this explosion, and the other one. So it was a lot going on. All right. And troops of horsemen in array, encountering and running one against another, with shaking of shields. The shaking of shields are the force fields, right? And multitude of pikes, those are the lasers. And drawing of swords and casting of darts, those are the lasers that the chariots shoot out, and at the angels. And the glittering of golden ornaments and harnesses of all sorts. Wherefore every man prayed that apparition might turn to good. You see that? So they prayed that it might turn to good. Now, this was before his second voyage into Egypt. Daniel 11 speaks about this voyage into Egypt. Right? We're reading about it right here in Daniel chapter 11 and 29. At the time appointed, he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. meaning he won't have the same success he had when he took down Pelusium, when he took down Memphis, when he took down the fattest places. That was a one-time deal, man. What you think you could just come in and out of Egypt like you want to? So that he will never replicate the success he had the first time, because now the Romans are involved. All that puppet king stuff ain't going to work no more. See, the Romans found out that he set up a puppet king. And they said, you got to get out of Egypt, man. What the hell are you doing? The Romans found out what was going on. Remember, the Ptolemies provided a lot of grain and a lot of resources to the Romans. So the Romans needed the Ptolemies to keep their society going. You know, just so the Romans could backstab them when it's all said and done. So what happened when Antiochus tried to go into Egypt the second time? We read this, right? But let's read it again. Daniel 11 and 30. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So he tried to go to Egypt, but the ships of Kittim are the Romans. See, Kittim represents Italy, and sometimes it's referred to as Greece as well. Kittim goes back to the sons of Japheth. Right? That's what Kittim represents. Right? This is Genesis, or the son of Javan, if I'm not mistaken. Come. Genesis chapter 10 and verse 2. Right? The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshach and Tyrus. Right? These are the sons of Japheth and the sons of Shem and Ham after the flood. So it goes through the genealogy of each of Noah's sons. And each one of them was given a certain portion on the earth. When you look up the earth divided, let's see, Noah's sons. I can bear with me. On the map, right? You'll see the land of Shem, you'll see the land of Ham, and you'll see the land of Japheth. All right, let's see if we get a good map right here. Right, you see that? And this is somewhat accurate. It's a little off some places, but it's somewhat accurate, right? So you see the sons of Japheth was given parts of Europe. Before the so-called white man went into Europe around 800 or so BC, more or less, you had Japheth up in that land. You had the Minoans, the Mycenaeans, the Etruscans, the Samnites, the Umbrians, the Latins. You had all of these different people of Japheth up in that land, right? The sea peoples. So when you go back to Genesis, it's going to tell you where each of the sons of Japheth was portioned. We'll see where Kittim was at. Genesis chapter 10 and verse 3. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togomar. And the sons of Javan, Elishah, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. So the ships of Kittim are what? Let's go to this word Kittim. All right, let's go into the word Kittim. Now, if they're right, they should say Italy or Greece. Okay, so they're not too far off, right? Bruisers, which we have to double check that, right? But a general term for all islanders of the Mediterranean Sea, and that's a decent definition because sometimes it's referred to as Greece. When in First Maccabees it says Alexander came out of Kittim, which means Macedon, and then in Daniel 11 it's saying the Romans come out of Kittim, so they're technically right. It's really the Isles of the Gentiles. All right. So the ships of Kittim and Daniel 11 in this proper context, speaking about the Romans. Put up the Roman Republic. All right. Let's put up the Roman. Right. Bear with me. Right. It's like this is Satan. I want to put up the Roman Republic. All right, let's put it up on the map. We'll see what Daniel 11 is speaking about. So here's your Roman Republic. Let's see. On the map. I don't want to see the empire. See, there's a difference between a Roman Empire and a Roman Republic. All right. So let's see. Pretty much, you want everything. You want to look at everything from this light purple all the way up until this peach color. And all of this is the Roman Republic. Right? So that's that light purple. That's that peach color. Here's the ships of Kittim coming straight out of Italy. That's what we really want to focus on. Coming straight out of Rome. These are your ships of Kittim. And they were led by, which we went into last week, if I'm not mistaken, Pompeius Laenas. Right? And I always spell this guy's name wrong. Pompilius. Let's see. Laenas. Right? Damn, he the name. Laenas. Right? I always spell this guy's name wrong. All right. So this is how we deal with it, right? Antiochus the third. Right. And I believe I had to do this last time, but that's all right. And we'll pull up. Let's see if we can find this guy. Boy, bear with me. All right, so like you got to find this man that the Romans sent against him. And now it may be, right, Antiochus the fourth. Here it is right here. Gaius, this guy's name, man, Gaius Popilius Linnaeus. And he stopped Antiochus from going into Egypt the second time. Right, so let's read about that guy. Gaius Popilius Linnaeus, or Laenas. Gaius Popilius Laenas, right? Gaius Popilius Laenas was a politician and general of the Roman Republic. He was a consul 2 times in 172 to 158. He sent an envoy to prevent a war between Antiochus IV Epiphanes of the Seleucid Empire and Ptolemaic Egypt. On being confronted with the Roman demands that he abort his attack on Alexandria, Antiochus played for time. He said, look, let me think about it. Let me get a minute to get my mind right, and then I'll decide if I could really, invade or not. So you have to think about this thing. Popilius Linnaeus is supposed to have drawn a circle around the king of the sand with his cane and ordered him not to move out of it until a firm answer had been given. The Syrians withdrew, according to Livy. So he drew a circle saying, hey, look, man, you better think about this. Do you want war? Do you not want war? And this is the famous painting, right? This is the old Popilius Linnaeus with the circle in the sand, and that's Antiochus Epiphanes IV. And he's saying, you bet not, and that's your Roman fasci right there that they carry, right? So they said, look, do you want the smoke? Do you want to deal with the Romans, or do you want to go home? Right? Like they say in training day, do you want to go to jail, or do you want to go home? And that's what he told him, man. You want to go to war? You want to go back to your homeland? He said, well, look, give me time. Let me think about it. He said, you better think about it right now. Okay, well, I want to go home. We'll go home. You're not going into Egypt, man. That's what Daniel chapter 11 is saying. Right? Let's read it again. Daniel 11:30. For the ships of Kittim, that's the Roman envoy led by Gaius Popilius Linnaeus, shall come against him. Therefore, he shall be grieved. Because he thought he would really take down all of Egypt, man. He built his army. Imagine building up your army, encouraging them, telling them we're going to win. They're spoils of war, giving them promises just to be sent back home. It's like loading up your car, man. Right, with all of your stuff to go on vacation, all of your this and all of your that, and your jewelry and your clothes and your sandals and your shades, and you're ready. got your passport, just for the TSA to say, look, you ain't coming through here. And you say, well, hold on, I got my passport. They say, do you want to go to jail? Do you want to go home? And the police come out and they would stand you with a strong force. And they seize your bag with all of your belongings, said, just go home and never come again. And you're going to be grieved, man. You're going to be hot. So he was grieved. It says, therefore, he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. I mean, he would take his wrath and anger out on the Jews. Instead of being a king and saying, okay, let me build up an army to fight the Romans. They disrespected and violated me and my fathers. Okay. Instead of going back and saying, all right, you want to draw a circle around me? All right, I'm going to build up an army against you. I'll overthrow you. Instead of thinking like a king, he thought like a coward, man. And just invaded Judea and robbed the temple. What type of king is that, man? We don't respect that. Nobody respects that, man. That's like being yelled at your so-called job by your supervisor or something, man. You go home and you just beat your son up and beat your daughter up, man, and start breaking stuff in their room. You know? Instead of going back and saying, getting yourself together, okay, look, I'm going to do this. I got something to say. Look, I'm going to go to HR if I need to. Look, I'm going to perform better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to just go and I'm going to destroy the Jews. We didn't have our own king at that time, our own army, man. So this is leading to the time of the Maccabees. Now we're kind of going into the time of the Maccabees. And it's fitting because it's the Feast of Dedication. And it was really a rebellion going on because there was a rumor that went out that the Romans actually killed Antiochus Epiphanes IV. Let's get that in 2 Maccabees chapter 5. There was an actual rumor that was out, man. They said everybody thought that he was dead. Right? Let's get that. So this 2 Maccabees chapter 5 and verse 5. Now when there was going forth a false rumor, as though Antiochus had been dead, Jason took at the least 1,000 men and suddenly made an assault upon the city. So he said, all right, I want to be king. So-called white man's dead. I'm running stuff now. But Antiochus really wasn't dead, man. It was just a rumor that went out about his failed expedition in Rome. So he said, hey, guess what? I'm coming down there, man. I'm taking over the city. That's what Jason did. And they that were upon the walls being put back and a city at length taken, Menelaus fled into the castle. But Jason slew his own citizens without mercy. Just killing his own people with no mercy. It's like a active shooter just going through the hood, or, you know, a bunch of jakes from the military, just boom, boom, boom. Women, children, babies. No mercy. Not considering that to get the day of them of his own nation would be a most unhappy day for him, but thinking they had been his enemies and not of his countrymen whom he conquered. So his mind was bad, man. Pure coonery, sellout. A sick individual was Jason. Howbeit, for all this he obtained not the principality. So he did it for no reason. But at the last received shame for the reward of his treason and fled again into the country of the Ammonites. Because what happened? Antiochus ended up coming back, man. And had to quench the rebellion that was going on that Jason started and a lot of the Jews started. Right? So let's jump down. Let's see. Now, 2 Maccabees 5 and 11. Now, when this that was done came to the king's ears, he thought that Judea had revolted, whereupon removing out of Egypt in a furious mind, he took the city by force of arms. So that was another reason that led to Antiochus Epiphanes doing what he did during the Feast of Dedication. One was Gaius Pompilius Laenas, who said, go back home. You're not going to war. The second one was, hold on, I got a rebellion in Egypt. I mean, Jason and the Jews are rebelling. Let me go down there and see what's going on. So he came down and sieged the city by force, man, to quench the so-called rebellion. Reading on, 2 Maccabees 5 and 12. And commanded his men of war not to spare such as they met, and to slay such as went up upon the houses. Thus there was killing of young and old, making away of men, women, and children, slaying of virgins and infants. And there were destroyed within a space of 3 whole days 80,000. That's 80,000 Jews he killed in 3 days. Wherefore of 40,000 were slain in conflict, and no fewer sold that were slain. So you had about 50,000 that may have been sold, and like 80,000 that was killed, man. Wickedness. This is what Daniel chapter 11 is saying when it says, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. And so shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. What is intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant? Those are sellouts. He has sellouts on his side like Menelaus, Rhodicus, other wicked men. That's what you call a COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO is counterintelligence program, if I'm not mistaken. And the intelligence that the FBI had was brought by Jake. That's where they get that movie Judas and the Black Messiah, right? And I can't remember that guy's name. He offed himself, right? That's where they get the movie Judas and the Black Messiah from. During the time of COINTELPRO, right? And they had a lot of sellouts around them, man. And that was a decent movie. See that guy right there. I think his name was William Neal. Look at him. That's Menelaus. Menelaus. And he was one of the men that was on Antiochus' side. All right. So let's go back to this in 2 Maccabees. Let's read about that. About him having intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. 2 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 15. Yet was he not content with this, but presumed to go into the most holy temple of all the world. Menelaus, that traitor to the laws and to his own country, being his guide. So Menelaus is off. Oh, you want to rob the Jews? You want to rob the Most High? Let me show you, Mr. White Man. I'm going to show you where the temple is, where the gold is, where the holy vessels are. This is where the sanctuary is. Here's where I live at. Here's my wife. Here's my son. Here's my daughter, Mr. White Man. Here's the glory of God. Take whatever you want. I know how to get in. I know who to talk to. I know it all. Have whatever you want, Mr. White Man. And if you got to kill me, kill me. As long as I can be slain by the edge of your sword. I don't want to die no way but by your sword, Mr. White Man. And kill me slow, that I can look you in your eyes as you kill me, as I die in my love for you, Esau. That's Menelaus, man. He's another sick individual. Menelaus, Jason. So that's what it means in Daniel 11, when it says he was having intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. You have many men that forsake the holy covenant, man. Let's go to 1 Maccabees. Right? Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 7. Right? 1 Maccabees chapter 7 and verse 5. Then came there unto him all the wicked men, wicked and godly men of Israel, having alchemists, who was desirous to be high priest for their captain. And they accused the people to the king. So they did this to Demetrius, but they also did this same thing to Antiochus. And they accused the people to the king, saying, Judas and his brethren have slain all thy friends and driven us out of our own land. So we went to the king and said, hey, look, Judas is killing a bunch of white people. Make him stop. He's killing all of your friends. So, you know, there was a lot of men of Israel that was on Antiochus' side, believe it or not. He had intelligence with them that forsook the holy covenant, right? He had intelligence with them that forsook the holy covenant. Right? So with that, we're going to have to close up, and we'll continue in Daniel chapter 11 and 31. Right? We'll continue on Daniel chapter 11 and 31. Right? It's fitting. It is the Feast of Dedication, man. It is the Feast of Dedication, and we're cleansing the temple and the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashima Mashiach Malak Yabashah. So with that, we're going to close up. Most High willing you enjoy your Feast of Dedication in mirth and in gladness, and remember the days of old. That Kwam Yashalom. Shalom.